Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our last ASP webinar of the year. I'm honoured that you're joining us and not at a Christmas party. And it's something which I'm really passionate about today, about helping your website getting found within ChatGPT and AI. Very, very topical at the moment, something in which we're having loads of conversations with clients about, a lot of interest as you'd expect. And today we're really going to do some practical stuff, hopefully demystify a little bit of what it's going to take to get your event website found within ChatGPT, as well as, oh great, within Google as well. So the amazing thing is some of the stuff we'll be doing here which is great for both ChatGPT and for Google. So I'll give some overview and also hopefully it'll be a nice practical session as well with some actual key takeaways of things that you can actually do today, tomorrow, over the Christmas period, if you feel so inclined to help your website. So let's just shift this on. So for any of you who don't know about us, ASP and me, so ASP have been doing events websites since the dawn of time, since 1997. That's all ASP have specialised in. So if you're an event and you need a website, there is no company which is more experienced in providing that and doing that as ASP. Been around a long time, specifically specializing now in lots of integration, so getting all the tech together from all other different event tech providers, as well as providing a fantastic website experience. I have been focusing on search engine optimization since 2012. And over that time have worked across a wide range of businesses and industries and have specialized in events for the last 5 years. Hopefully I still bring to events lots of knowledge from outside, and it's very normal in many of the other industries I've worked in, such as finance or e-commerce, to drive website traffic from Google and now from the AI engines all year round. So something which is quite elusive to many events. It doesn't have to be. I've certainly worked in many industries and had many projects where it's just normal to drive year-round traffic. And some of the things in which I'm going to run through with you today will show you how to do that. It's not rocket science. There's no particular dark art to it. It's fundamentally making your website a resource that deserves to get traffic all year round. And if you think about it, if you have an event in which you only have content on there on the lead up to the event, and then maybe delete stuff afterwards, such as speakers or exhibitors, etc. Why should that website deserve traffic all year round? Because the content isn't there. Think of it compared with a newspaper, for example, where or the BBC website, in which has an ever-growing amount of content, 365. That's where people and the search engines start to recognize it as a real information resource, and it drives more and more traffic all throughout the year. So fundamentally, there probably needs to be a mentality shift in terms of the website for an event, and whether rather than just being information about the event, can it start being an information resource 365? And that's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today. You may have heard about some of this stuff before from me, but that's because it fundamentally rings true. To get 365 traffic, your event website also needs to be a really useful resource for people all year round. We came here to talk about AI and AI search, and it is growing massively. I'm sure, I mean, certainly from my experience a year ago where it was relatively niche, I'm pretty much talking to everyone now, whether it be my wife, my dad, my daughters, and everyone is now talking, and I'm sure all of you guys, everyone's now talking about ChatGPT and using AI search pretty much all the time, and more people are using it on a daily basis for more and more searches, more and more complicated searches. No longer is it just Nike trainers. It might be, I'm looking to start running for the first time in 5 years. How will I, what pair of trainers would suit me best? I am a 45-year-old man, weigh this and do this type of running. Can you recommend some trainers? Just think about that as a search compared with what people were doing in the past, where you kind of had to do a lot of that research beforehand, and Google was very much just a way of targeting certain, shortish phrases once you kind of knew and had read stuff up. So as we're going through this, think not only about being found, but the kind of searches that you are putting into AI search, and even in Google now, the longer kind of searches and things that you're putting in, and just have a little think about how you search. But as we can see here, ChatGPT and the other Perplexity here, they're growing massively. You've got Google AI overviews. I'll come on some stats later, but potentially Google could be toppled at some point. But having said that, Gemini is getting extremely good. It's coming forth leaps and bounds, and no one really knows how this race will kind of end up. But what we do know is that there's huge demand and there's huge growth in AI, and how we searched before is very much changing, and it's changing quite dramatically. I kind of briefly mentioned this before about the type of searches you might be putting into Google or ChatGPT, how they're getting longer, how they're getting more specific. And people today absolutely will be now putting in longer and more specific searches into the AI engines to narrow down whether they will come to an event like yours. And there may be very specific searches about actual events. They might start out as more informational questions, but just think about the vast range of things that people could start be looking into, whether it be, and I've mentioned here, someone who is doing some research about suppliers for heavy farming equipment. And in this particular example, maybe they're not specifically looking for an event. They're just looking for very specific suppliers of machinery and equipment, and I'm sure that their search will get more specific relating to that. But at this point, maybe they don't realize that an event is a fantastic place to actually go and find those suppliers of equipment, and they hadn't specifically thought about that. So if you think about this for a second, how will they know that your event it covers all of this equipment, the kind of range that it covers, the sorts of people that will be there, whether it be suppliers, whether it be consultants, or I'm not expert in this industry, but all of the different, whether it be wholesalers, all those. How will ChatGPT and the search engines know exactly about how your event, who showcases suppliers of this type of equipment, would be relevant for someone who is searching? Well, ultimately, your website's going to need words. It's going to need words that describes this, because this is what the AI engines feed from. These are just some examples of probably much shorter than in reality you would see searches that you're going to get onto ChatGPT and the AI engines, and start thinking and maybe even ask ChatGPT to start suggesting for your event the sorts of things that people could start putting into a search engine or into an AI engine to find out anything about something that might align to your event. So maybe you're looking for real experts in renewable energy. And again, maybe you're not even specifically at this point looking for an event. And so therefore, on your event, you need to start to define the types of experts, what kind of topics they cover, maybe the sort of companies and their backgrounds and things like that. Now, obviously, some of that will be within your speaker libraries and within the bios of the different speakers. But where can you start adding more value? So when someone comes onto that speaker page, or when one of the language models is reading your speaker page, to get more and more information about it. So when people are starting to ask questions around that, you can give more valuable answers. I think my probably bit of homework here is, like I say, if you go off, start querying ChatGPT about your event, and start querying it and start thinking about the really long questions that people can start asking and being specific about your events, because that could be quite insightful in terms of then the information you need to start putting on your event. When we think about AI, and there's obviously, and absolutely there needs to be a lot of thought about where it's going to take us, how you may need to change your website and other marketing to reflect that. But the reality is, as we sit here today, over 90% of online journeys still starts with Google. It has enormous market dominance. So we can't forget Google. It's here, and your website ultimately at this point in time needs to perform well in Google. But the great news is, if it does perform well in Google and it's set up so it's easy to read, it provides lots of useful information that targets lots of keywords and the kind of the old school sort of SEO setup, then it has many of the building blocks in place to actually perform well in AI search as well. So we can't forget about Google. We've also got the AI overviews at the top of Google search. You've got Gemini, obviously, which is owned by Google. So whilst we get excited about AI and how the website can perform there, let's not forget Google, because the reality is, as we sit here today, it is where an awful lot of the online journeys really do start. So AI very much builds on top. If we think about a website that may have been optimized for Google in the past, there would have been keyword research done to determine what specific pages are to target. Maybe it's AI event, or maybe it's machine learning event. Maybe there were 2 pages that have been set up on a website to target things such as that. And AI very much builds on top of this. So AI loves questions and answers, for example, because people ask questions, they want to know about things, as we did some of those example ChatGPT searches before. So starting to add FAQs to a website, that can be a great starting point. As a side note, I'm actually going to be coming on to 10 top tips of things you can do to your website. So I'll be coming on to things like FAQs in a bit, so you can note that down. Plus, we have a supporting playbook, which will be listing those down too. So obviously, feel free to take notes, but there's going to be plenty of supporting information about what you need to do to cover all of these matters to actually optimize your website. Say AI builds on top of Google. ChatGPT and the other search engines actually do use Google as a bit of resource. Excuse me. In terms of finding where to get its information. Obviously, Google there's probably no better place to actually find what is trusted and what is on the internet. So the large language models look at Google too. So if you rank well and do well within Google search, that's certainly going to help your AI performance. I've mentioned that quality matters. So just like if you want a website to rank in Google, you need to have clear, trustworthy, authoritative writing. Exactly the same is for the AI engines, so nothing really changes there. And I've made a note down there too that if you drop all out of Google's top results, or if you're never in Google's top results for important things for your site, then you're making your job in terms of being found in ChatGPT and the other engines harder as well. So I think I've alluded to this already, but it's content, and we keep coming back to one of the key pillars really of marketing is, people have heard about content is king for a long time, but in terms of your site and in terms of AI and Google understanding your website and who it is to serve, the core area where it will get this information is content. When I talk about content, it's written content. So videos are fantastic, podcasts are great, and they certainly help with getting engagement on a page. If you have like a really useful video on a page that's embedded, the engagement will certainly help that page. But the problem is that the language models in Google can't actually read the video, so it's written words that will certainly help. And if you've ever done, or having done a search on ChatGPT, be interesting to know some of your experiences in terms of the quality of the information that comes back. Now, sometimes it will relate to how specific your search might be, but also it will relate to how much information that there is online about the specific topic you're searching about. So let's say they are doing a search about your event, and let's assume for a second that you have quite a thin website with not much information on there. ChatGPT, it wants to please, and that's how it's been designed, as well as the other engines. So it doesn't want to let you down. Reason being is it wants you to go back and use it again, because people pay subscriptions. I'm sure there's going to be ads on there at some point that they'll be paid for. So it wants to help you out, so you'll come back and use it again. And therefore, if you do a search about a specific event, it will write something for you. Now, where's it going to get this information from? It's going to be either from, firstly, it's going to be your website. Now, let's assume there's hardly anything on your website. So if it doesn't go there, it's going to go around searching elsewhere. So that might be your tickets platform or your registration platform. Who knows what information's on there and if it's up to date. It might be other random places on the internet. Sometimes people just scrape information for their own nefarious purposes. And finally, it could make it up. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but the AI engines, they do something called hallucinate. And on occasions, if they're not actually providing, if they don't have a source of information to give you, there's been plenty of examples of where the AI engines have literally made stuff up, whether it be authors, publications, dates, events, all sorts of things. They could make things up, and that's much more likely to happen if they don't have the source information. And this is where, as a website provider, it's actually quite an exciting time. People often ask us, do you see AI as a threat? In actual fact, it's the opposite. See it very much as an opportunity, because your website now can become that source of truth. When the AI engines are looking all over the place, trying to grab information to serve up to people, you can now be a source rather than having to rely on all sorts of other places. And if you want things to encourage people to come to your event, you now have the ability to make sure that that's written on your website in a very concise and informational way. So even if it's read and cited on ChatGPT, that it still drives people to your event. So content is the key here, and written content. And then obviously it's nice to write about stuff, but we need to start thinking about organizing it, just like you would a library, into specific topics that your audience is interested in. So I've spoken about topics many times before if you come along to our webinars, but it is so important, because just think about it for a second. If you go on to Amazon and it hasn't been split into all of the different product categories that you have, anyone, whether you be ChatGPT or a person going onto that website, will find it incredibly difficult to navigate around. You won't find it easy to find what you're looking for, and you're making everyone's job a lot harder. So the topics that we're creating on a website aren't just for SEO, they're for people, and they're there also to help the large language models and for Google to really understand what it is that you cover. So for example, if I'm thinking of coming to an event, let's say it specializes in AI, AI is a big topic. It's an enormous topic, and you could be coming at that topic from all different angles, whether it be just teaching a beginner how to use AI for the first time, or it could be someone who works on the servers and the infrastructure around AI. It could be someone who's on the builds automation systems within there. It could be a million and one things. There could be lots of different angles that you could be taking on that topic of AI. And how is anyone to know that until you start to organize your website in terms of what you cover? currently. Maybe there's information on there about some of the sessions you may have, and which a bit of information can be gleaned from that. But many of the sessions that I look at on many client websites, they have some information, they don't have an awful lot. So you're making the language model's job a lot harder to try and sort of summarize this. If you have lots of sessions with not a lot of information on there, you'll start to make life a lot easier if you start to create topic pages. So let's start to think about the key things that your event covers and what people can get to find out about when they come along, and start to break the event down into different topics, just like the category pages that you would have on Amazon, or many other websites for that matter, once it's broken into topics. So in this fictitious AI event that I'm thinking of coming on, maybe machine learning is my thing, and that's all I'm interested in. So if I see a page about machine learning and some of the speakers that you're going to have there, some of the sessions that relate to that topic, as well as maybe some exhibitors, that's much more aligned to me and what I'm interested in coming to see. So immediately you've made the website more useful for me and make me more likely to sign up. And also for the language models, you can see that this event is very much specializes in this topic. So if prior to coming, I was doing searches on ChatGPT about machine learning events or finding more information about it. If the language models can easily understand that you cover that topic, you're much more likely to be shown. Finally, the platform has to be decent. Any form of website, it needs to be easily read by the language models, as well as Google. Fortunately, with ASP, it is there's all sorts of techie, geeky stuff behind the scenes that we've done to make sure that ChatGPT and Google can quite easily read the website and all of its different pages. So we've got that in hand. I've got a slide later on which gives some of the specific details on that. I'm not going to cover them in detail, but if you want to geek out and look at those, I've got those here. Oh, look, here we go. Forgot it was the next slide. You can read that through at your leisure, but fundamentally we have all of the different bits that the language models need, and we're well aware of things that might be up and coming. There's something called the LLM.txt file, which will in the future potentially help the language models even more. So it's currently not supported, but we will be keeping a close eye on when the language models are going to start supporting it, and as soon as it is, and there's a framework set up for it, we're going to be right on the case to make sure that your website is always as up to date and as modern as it can be. But you can be safe in the knowledge that your ASP website is nice and AI friendly. I've mentioned about how Google's really important. Something changed in April 25 where Google actually restricted the number of pages that some of these language models can actually look back on. So ranking well in Google is incredibly important for ranking and being found in ChatGPT. Okay, so let's start to have a look at some of the key areas in which you can help to stay visible within the large language models, and these are some key things which you can actually do today on your website. So one of the key problems that I see is that people get rid of their some of their old speaker pages, exhibitor pages. When the events happen, treat the website very much like they treat the events and get rid of last year's stuff. Well, the fact is some of that stuff might be seen as really valuable and actually be driving lots of existing traffic. So I'd certainly recommend, especially for any pages which are performing, and often they are speaker pages, and I've spoken about this a few times before, is keeping those. You can check this out in Google Search Console in terms of which pages are performing. And the easy solution to this is to, if you have an ASP website, we can export the speaker pages, import them into a library called last year's speakers, and make sure that these are kept live. So keep this traffic alive. Second one would be turning your recordings into articles. So we have spoken about this at length and in the past, in that I've spoken about content being king, but in the past it was always expensive to get high quality content onto a website. You'd have to employ good content writer or have a journalist, etc., etc. But obviously you have amazing sessions, especially if you run conference sessions. This is absolute gold because of the people in which you have giving the sessions, industry leaders, etc. So by turning these into written, really high quality blog posts, this really, I would say, is the cornerstone of what will turn your website from an event website into an information resource that your audience will keep coming back to throughout the year, and also attract new people, the sorts of people that you want to come to your event as well. So I would highly recommend thinking about, do you have conference sessions in which you can get turned into blog posts, because these can work extremely well, extremely well. Oops. As an aside, we have a service that can help you to do this. Obviously, you can use ChatGPT to grab your transcript and turn it into an article. One thing to bear in mind is that the keywords and what you target on an article is important. Just throwing up lots and lots of transcribed articles without any form of categorization, putting into themes, and then getting your keyword optimization in there, it can be a nice, it can certainly help the website, but it certainly will not help it perform as well as it can do if you optimize the articles properly. It reminded me recently dealing with a client who had hundreds of blog posts on a kind of a news site, and which hadn't been organized properly, hadn't been set up and optimized like this. And they had less than 2,000 searches a month, and people coming onto the website, which was probably, I'd say, about 5% of what they should have been getting. So they've gone 90% there and writing all of this content and putting onto their website, but because they hadn't optimized it properly, they were getting a fraction of the traffic that they should have done. This relates to that point actually I made about knowing what your audience is searching for, in that you fundamentally need to be writing about things in which people are interested in, and which they will be searching for within Google and or ChatGPT. And so there's all sorts of ways in which you can do this. First step is often using ChatGPT to start thinking about the key subject areas in which people are interested in, and then thinking about any sessions that you have which may fall into those categories. And then within that itself, using tools such as Google's Keyword Planner, which is a free tool, to start finding specific keywords within that might be relevant to certain sessions you have, etc., that people might be searching for online. And it's very important to make sure and not to forget that. Like I said before, I gave that example of the clients who had had sort of thousands of blogs on their websites, and because they hadn't thought about the keywords and what people were searching for, and there was no organization, unfortunately the website was really not working as it should have been, and driving the sort of traffic that it should have been. But doing this keyword research, it's amazing how it starts to open up kind of thoughts as to how your website is structured, like I say, within these topics, because if you see that one topic has twice as many searches a month than another one, it can start to align the pages that you can start creating, such as these topic pages. And we've even had examples where we've renamed conference themes actually at the event based on keyword research, because these are real people, and what real people are typing into Google, and now the language models. So the keyword research is so important, and always keep going back to topics, and always think about a library and how a library is categorized, and think about how you can put your organize your website into the key topics and categories, but make sure that they relate to things that people will be searching for. So go back to my machine learning event or in my robotics events. These could be categories or topics of my overall AI event. And we know this because we know what our audience is interested in, and we've done some keyword research to know that these topics also have lots of searches online. Okay, so just to recap, the first one was don't delete your old good stuff, things like speakers. Number two, we'll start now to create some great quality content and articles. Number three is, well, let's not forget about what people are actually searching for and make sure that these articles are targeted and also organized into key topics that people are searching for as well. And hence we have topic pages. So topic pages, like I've said, are very much like these are the window into all the information about what that person could be looking for. So they could be looking for specific speakers, exhibitors, specific conference sessions. They might want to know about networking opportunities to meet other people that relate to, the specific speciality that they work in or topic they're interested in. And to target topics initially is as simple as creating a specific page about that topic. It really doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. So I was speaking to a client the other day who was saying, yeah, but do we really need to kind of add 15 more pages to our website that we've now got to kind of keep updated? But it's like these are 15 very specific topics that your clients are looking for and very much relate to the exhibitors that you have, and will be highly targeted in helping to drive people who are looking for those subjects. And I think with a bit of reassurance that a lot of the content that will be pulled in on those pages will be from widgets. So there might be a speaker widget of the speakers that just have been tagged that cover that topic, or the exhibitors. They were kind of reassured that actually these are highly valuable pages that will mean that the website works for you while you're asleep, and will be driving people and building those subscription lists and getting inquiries all year round. And the topic pages, I can't really emphasize how important these are. These really are a cornerstone to making sure that you do appear online, and also it starts to make it easier for the AI engines to really understand the breadth of what you cover. I mean, if, like I say, if you walk into a library and you immediately look at all the main signs and see, what's down the key aisles, and maybe that library has a speciality. It's more about scientific textbooks, for example, because you can see all of the different areas in which are covered, and by looking at those, you'd maybe quickly say, well, that's not for me. But because it's all been categorized and signposted well, it's nice and easy for you to see, and that's what you want to be doing for the AI engines. Make sure that it's clear what you cover, and also make sure it's clearly signposted too. Signposted being you actually have links on your menu, or you have references to that topic on your homepage. That leads me nicely on to talking about the menu. Your website has to be logical and easy to move around it. So if we create topic pages, they need to be on the menu. People sometimes say, well, can't we just hide them? Well, the key thing is they should actually be genuinely useful for people. So why can't people find them? So let's have on the main menu conference themes or topics or whatever you want to call them, and then offer those, then link to all of those too. We can also cover that on the main homepage. Also, obviously, actually on the topic pages themselves, you can potentially then list all the other topics as well and link off to those. So you've got to always remember that it has the website and the information you have on there has to be easily found and nice and logical. So obviously from the main menu and also within pages themselves. Always try and view your website or get other people who don't normally go onto your site to have a little look around and see, is it easy to navigate? Can you find key parts of it? I'd also suggest adding Microsoft Clarity to your website. Whilst it has heat maps and stuff like that on there, it also helps you to visualize how easy it is for people to navigate the site and where they might be clicking. So if people are clicking on the wrong place when you look at Microsoft Clarity, you can see maybe it's not so easy to navigate. But if your website's easy to navigate for people, it's sure going to help the AI engines and Google as well. If you imagine it's a computer program which comes onto the site and it looks at all the links that you have from your home page, it will look at your main menu, and it will then from there start crawling all the different pages. So in many ways, it kind of replicates what humans do, but obviously a lot faster. So think about making sure the all important pages are linked to, easy to find. And if you do archive, let's say last year's speakers, why have those hidden away? They can be a great showcase, especially before next year's are announced, of the people we've had before, especially if you've got high profile people within the industry. And if they are past speakers, why is it a problem that maybe they spoke in 2022? Someone will find that page, but at the bottom you say, if you want to find out who this year's speakers are, there's a nice little link through to this year's speakers. Needs to be easy to navigate and explore your website. I think one of my favorites, because it's kind of so easy to do. So FAQs, if you think about using ChatGPT and Google, people are asking questions. They're asking questions all the time. So therefore, why not answer those questions on your website? Now, often people find it hard to write these for their website, but the great thing is with ChatGPT these days is you can use that to help you write your FAQs. And I really will have these on so many pages, not just a separate FAQ page. So let's just think someone comes onto your homepage. They've never heard of your event before. They're thinking about, it looks kind of interesting, but they still need to be sold. They still need to know things like what kind of exhibitors you're going to have, what speakers do you have, how many sessions do you have running, what time do you open, all sorts of questions that those people may have. Now, one of the things I'll often do when writing FAQs for any page will be to go onto ChatGPT and say, assume I'm a first-time visitor to this website. What kind of information would I want to know about this event to help me make a decision that I want to register, or I want to inquire to exhibit. Give me a list of potential FAQs that this homepage should be asking. So you can paste in the URL, you can paste in all the page content, and ChatGPT will then start to give you ideas as to FAQs that you can start putting onto that page. Then maybe we've set up a topic page. Topic page could be about machine learning, let's say, and you can now go on and say, right, we now have set up a machine learning page, which is targeting specifically people, and maybe there's certain job types, job descriptions, etc., who are interested in attending an event around this. Here is the existing content that we have on this page. What else? What other questions, unanswered questions, might someone have about this page or about this event that we haven't yet answered? Please, can you help write some FAQs that answer this? And also, if you keep this in the same conversation as you did the homepage, you can also add a little note at the bottom to say, please make sure there's no duplication with the homepage, or it adds more value than the homepage, or more detail about this specific topic. And then just start working through your website for the key pages. Obviously, we're not going to do this everywhere, but certainly for key pages, and certainly for things and where you want to get found. Another page I'll probably add this FAQs to would be a tickets page or registration. It's amazing how many times I go onto an event website, and because the registration platform is with a third party, there's no actual registration page on the website. And if you just think about it, an event should have a registration or a ticket page. It simply should, because then people, Google, the search engines know where to point people to when people are interested in registering. Now, even if your registration is somewhere else, you can obviously link off to that third-party place for those registrations. Well, let's say registration isn't open, which it won't be for much of the year, I fully understand. Well, there's certainly no reason why you can't ask people to sign up to your newsletter. Let's say you have webinars running throughout the year, you can sell people in on that, potentially as opportunities for sponsorship or exhibiting or all the other things. So I certainly would recommend having a registration page, which you have all year round, and also have some information on that page, FAQs, which might start to ask questions about, what the registration includes, are there paid options, or, all the other things, and maybe go through the loop with ChatGPT to answer, sort of ask and answer all the kind of questions that you might have on a registration page. But very simplistically, let's start with your homepage. Start thinking about FAQs that you can add on there, and then maybe think of other key pages on your website, whether it be registration page, whether it be agenda page, whatever it might be. Start to think, can you add value to that by adding some FAQs? If you're not sure, whack the whole page into ChatGPT and say, would it add value by adding some FAQs on here, and what sort of ones would you add? Complete every speaker profile. I'm just going to read that out. And so many times I go onto a client site and we'll look at the performance of the website in Google Search Console, and it's amazing how many times speaker pages do perform really well, and especially when you add them all up. And this could be enhanced so much if you fill out their profile. Speakers add a lot of value to your website. They bring authority, they bring trust, they bring it's often the reasons why people will go to an event to see the speakers. So all I can say is fill this out as much as possible, ideally unique content, and yeah, I'd highly encourage that this is done, and then also remember the point one of then not deleting these later, because these can be the real hidden value of your website and such potentially an easy win. Right along line with this, exhibitor profiles, we typically find that it's the kind of small to medium-sized businesses where their profiles typically work best. If you've got Apple exhibiting at your event, it's unlikely that your profile page is going to rank higher within Google or be shown in ChatGPT above Apple's own website. But for the small to medium-sized companies, sometimes it can even be the exhibitor profile on your event website that can rank higher than their own website. But that's only going to happen if they fill out unique content on their profiles. So I would certainly recommend that you encourage your exhibitors to do that. And funny enough, it helps your website as well. It drives more traffic, drives more potential exhibitors, sponsors, etc. Publishing regularly has been a thing when it comes to search performance, pretty much from the beginning, because what a lot of the engines are looking for are signals that you are an information resource. And if you think about all of the highly authoritative websites you may go to, such as maybe not BBC website, lots of other websites, they are regularly publishing new content, and as a result, Google and the large language models will be regularly going back and checking that site. Is there anything new? What can we look for today? And then we'll serve that up. Is there anything else that's new? What can we serve up? And if you don't publish regularly, what then happens is that the search engines and the AI engines will stop looking at your website so regularly, and therefore they don't consider it as important. So it becomes a bit of a chicken and egg, in which if you only publish in the lead up to the event, it kind of knows that. It kind of knows you're an event website, so therefore it won't really look at your website much until those few months prior, in which you're now starting to do VisProm and XProm and starting to upload of your speaker and all your exhibitor information. So to get out of that cycle, what you need to do is now to start publishing things such as your conference sessions, and any other content that you have, not just in the lead up to the event, but all year round. So then you can start to enjoy the search engines coming to your website on a regular basis and starting to show you up more regularly because you have useful information. I do appreciate this is a change in culture for many events marketing teams, because obviously the focus is very much on the event and all of the million and one other things in which you need to be doing. But publishing regularly is really important throughout the year, because this is also a signal that you then deserve to get visitors regularly come from search. So it's very much baked into a lot of the search engines kind of algorithms about regular publishing, and unfortunately you can't get away from it. So the great thing is if you have sessions that you record, you could turn them into articles and we could start publishing those throughout the year. Audits are really important. If you, like I said here, if you don't know how you're currently performing, sometimes you don't know how to improve that. I'll come on to some of the things in which we're offering clients in a sec, but we're now offering AI visibility audits to see how you're getting shown up within the different AI engines and how that compares with your competitors. And sometimes just seeing that can be quite interesting, because we find it shows a few things actually, from maybe the incorrect topics you're showing up for, because that gives an indication that you're giving the wrong signals out to the AI engines. Sometimes we have the wrong competitors being shown. Again, it's giving out the wrong signals. Maybe some of the AI engines are thinking of you as in the realms of other suppliers, which sometimes we've seen with event sites. Well, that's not true. Obviously, it's much more an event and a resource, information resource. So the AI audits can be really insightful, because it now starts to show kind of how your site is being viewed, and then where you should start to put your effort to help improve things. So we're kind of wrapping up to the end. One of the key things to remember is that AI is growing massively, and as you can see here, I think the expected growth is going to be enormous over the next few years. But I think one of the things you can take heart from is that many of the things in which you need to do will help you perform better in Google today. And then as we move on, it will certainly help you perform within AI moving forward. I think what's so interesting, kind of observing this and being around the SEO industry for such a long period of time, is that we've never really got away from just the importance of content. So really great quality information on your website, well laid out, well researched, and certainly with AI today, that content's obviously a lot easier to produce. So things like turning sessions into articles and into blog posts. So the shift that's happening for some industries and for some businesses that currently do that, maybe there won't be a huge change, but I think for many events, it's really worth now starting to think about how we can get some of this content that you have currently just boxed up within your event and now being shown onto your website, because that will really be the kind of core for helping your site being cited by ChatGPT and giving recommendations within the AI engines. Because in Google before, it was just, if you just imagine, it was just, it was a short line and a couple of lines that were being shown, which could mean that you could appear on the front of Google. But within the AI engines, obviously it's a lot more detailed that they throw back, and they're not going to give information about you and potentially your exhibitors and speakers, etc., unless you have the right information on your site. So just to start to sum up, AI search is changing how people are starting to search. Searches are getting longer. I didn't mention before, but relatively recently, shopping searches are now showing up within ChatGPT. Who knows whether registration pages, etc., actually being able to register directly within ChatGPT will ever start to show up, but it's worth keeping an eye on, and it certainly means it's worth making sure you have a registration page 365 and you have some good quality information on there. Like I say, it's not replacing Google, but it's certainly taking what what we've had for a while and kind of very much building on it. But the great news is that if you do well in Google, you should also do well in ChatGPT and AI engines as well. And to perform well, you will need well written and good quality content. And I know I'll keep banging on about it, but one of the easiest ways to do this is to actually publish what some of your speakers have been speaking about at your event, because sometimes it's not only the content that you write, but it's who has written it. That's so key. So if I wrote an article about AI, it might be a nice article, it might be well written, published on a website. If Elon Musk wrote exactly the same one, exactly the same website, just the same words, quite simply his article will perform much better because Google, etc., will see him much more of an authority in this sphere than me. So the very nature of the fact that a lot of your content could have speakers' names attached to them makes them so much more powerful. And this is just as relevant for AI search as it is for Google. So like I say, great writing doesn't go away. The fact is today, ChatGPT in terms of the writing side, isn't replacing humans, but obviously it just makes that job so much quicker. But it still needs to be written well and be relevant to your audience and aligned to the kind of thing that they're looking for. And finally, like I've said right at the beginning, that the AI engines do like to make things up, and unless you have your website as that a source of truth, they're going to get that information from somewhere else, or they're just going to fabricate something. So make sure that your website is that source of truth. Fantastic. Let's just, I have a couple of questions before I jump onto this. How much intro or background detail should you include on the topic pages for Google and AI engines to understand them? On top of the exhibitor and speaker widgets. Okay, so just basically, so on the topic page, how much information do we need? In many ways, I look at this as just try and think about it from a visitor point of view, and I kind of hate to say common sense because it implies that. So almost, yeah, if you're a visitor going onto a topic page and you are particularly interested in that section of the event, what would you so they're going to have a brief introduction to that page. I'd have something about that. You'd have it very much, what would you expect to see and what questions would you have? So that will start to define what written content you have. You could also put this into ChatGPT. Say, I am a chief financial officer and I'm thinking of going to this event, and I have just come onto this page, which is written about certain topics I'm interested in. What would I expect to see on this page? One of the real talents of ChatGPT is when you give it a persona, and you can start to give it a persona of all of your audience. So pretend that it's one of your particular audience types that's onto his page, and ask ChatGPT what it would expect to see on this page, and that could very much give you a hint as to how much could be written on there. So it's certainly worth adding the speakers widget and the exhibitor widget, so you can tell it what you already got on the page and copy and paste that into there, and that can give hints as to anything else that you should write on there. And that pretty much leads into the next question: is there an optimal number of FAQs? I'd certainly say that from a visual point of view, because often we'll have them put into an accordion, is to not have too many. If you have like 15 accordions kind of splitting out, that's a little bit too much and a bit unwieldy, to be honest. So what I like to do is maybe have like 3 or 4 of those accordions, and then within that have maybe 2 or 3 possibly FAQs. But again, very much depends on what the page is trying to do. Think about your audience, throw that back into ChatGPT and say, this is the type of page this is. These, maybe assume you're the sort of person that could be coming to this page, and it will start. And how many FAQs would you suggest? What ones would you suggest? Then see what it says, see what it spits out, have a look at it. Does that make sense? Etc. etc. So great thing is you can now use ChatGPT to answer a lot of those questions for you. We've now pretty much come to the end. Thanks for those questions. They were great. If you have any others, feel free to fire those over. If you're unsure about your website and how we can help it, we've got a couple of things for you. So we have a playbook where we go through a bit more detail. So I've got this. You can have a little look through and recover some of these steps that I've gone over today. We also are doing for clients quite an in-depth. It takes a day to produce. There's lots that go into it. A AI visibility audit and assessment, in which we'll go through all sorts of things from how you are appearing within AI search. We'll look at the technical setup. Is there anything blocking the AI engines crawling around your site, etc. Some of the content that you have and its structure and clarity, and maybe other things that you could have. We'll look at individual pages and how they're done. We'll look into Google and very specifically how you're performing there. Topics you might be covering and opportunities you're missing, and the quality of your content, plus anything else that might be helping or hindering your performance in AI search. So if that's of interest, we're doing them at $495 at the moment. If ordered before 24th of December. So if that's of interest, let us know, and we can get that to you. And that could be a nice sort of springboard for your website to perform well in 2026 in AI search. So that much wraps it up. Hopefully that was helpful for you. And like I say, grab your AI visibility playbook and look forward to hearing all your stories about new content that you've added and how the websites are now performing, getting found in ChatGPT. Thanks very much.